So, what was the scenario between 1952 and 56? Before this, we have discussed about the City College incident, which was the last activity of 1952 agitation, Idli Sambar Government movement or anti non-mulki movement. So, scenario between 1952 and 56, why we are discussing means, we are going into a state in the sense not in terms of geography I am saying, we are going into a phase or stage from Hyderabad state to Andhra Pradesh state. Andhra Pradesh formation is happening in 1956. In between, Dhar committee was appointed in June 1948. Dhar committee having 2 members in its commission along with chairman Dhar, Dr. Pannalal and Jagat Narayan as the members. They discussed and they said formation of linguistic states is not possible, not desirable they said. Why not desirable? It is threat to unity of the country they opined. And this not desirable aspect of linguistic state. Why? Because Andhra was demanding a linguistic state. So, now because Dhar committee rejected, again in Andhra there was a discontent. Andhra areas in Madras province. Then finally, they pressurized Nehru to constitute a committee again. All this is happening inside the Congress, because Congress is the only party which is having its stakes in all these regions, and they are vocal and they are in the power, they can pressurize Nehru. So, finally, a new committee was formed, that is Nehru, Patel and Pattabhi. Why I am going a bit fast? Because this is not related to Telangana formation, this is mostly into Andhra politics. So, only some bits you can know. JVP committee, Nehru, Patel and Pattabhi. Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Pattabhi. These 3 people were the members of JVP committee, taking the first letter of the name. They have formed Jawaharlal, Vallabhbhai and Pattabhi. So, this committee finally recommended the Andhra state formation without Madras, underline without Madras. This was the bone of contention. This was the serious discontent with Andhras. Andhras want Chennai, that is today's Chennai, or Madras too. Andhras opposed, they said we want Madras because we have built Madras. The same thing as they are claiming, or they claimed Hyderabad as they built or they developed. We can see in the last phase of agitation again the same question of Hyderabad, same question of capital. Since beginning 1940s, the problem of Andhra politics is about the capital. We will discuss further when we talk about Ambedkar too. So, division committee was appointed based on this JVP committee's recommendation, and finally, Andhra state was formed, and this formation did not happen smoothly, because they were adamant on Chennai. Potti Sriramulu has to sit on strike, hunger strike, and 19th October he sat and death happened, he died, he became a martyr for Andhra cause in December, on December 15th 1952 he died. So, main issue was Madras as joint property, they were claiming that Madras as joint property. Remove Madras, you have Hyderabad, you will come to the next phase. And like this, finally, in 1953, Andhra state was formed on October 1st, and Nehru came to inaugurate the new state. Here we can see the intentions of the Andhra leaders were revealed on day 1 itself. As we have seen many statements, like one famous political leader like Madabhushi Anantsena Iyengar from Tirupati. He was the deputy speaker of Lok Sabha also. What he said was, chariot of Andhras will not stop till it reaches Hyderabad. Just to understand the whole concept, chariot of Andhras, what do you mean by chariot? Are you invading or conquering Hyderabad territory or Telangana territory? They want Hyderabad as their capital. This was the intention from the beginning. In Telugu, we can understand it very easily. Kandena kosam matrame Karnullo agindi. Kandena kosam ma ratham agindi. Hyderabad cherenta varaku nadustune untundi ma prayadam. Kandena, Karnul was known as Kandanavolu. So, he has taken that Kandena or Kandanavolu, and Kandanavolu agindi Kandena kosam. Kandena ante bandi irusuku vesedi. The thing which acts like grease in the fulcrum of that whole wheel. So, he was comparing with that chariot. And second statement is, second understanding is, Andhra legislators resolved that Vishal Andhra should be formed. You have formed a new state from Madras province in 1953, first rule it, and before inaugurating the new state itself, they have started it, and they have resolved for Vishal Andhra. One political leader like Kala Venkatrao, a prominent man, has said we are working for Vishalandhra and we want Hyderabad too. And Nehru, very interestingly, on the day one itself said, this sounds like imperialism. He said in his statement very clearly, the word Vishala sounds, sounds are comprises of imperial intentions of conquest. In Telugu newspaper, they have clearly given, dantlo he has very, very clearly said that this is imperial interests. Imperial means conquest mode. This was the intentions in the day on the day one. So, what do we understand? When we think about a new state formation, you can start it, but from the day one they want Hyderabad as their capital and whole Telangana region into its dispensation. This is the reality of 1952 and after. So, with the Andhra formation till 1956 we have seen the things, but before this we have to understand one thing. Before the state's formation, there was an important aspect happening in Indian political scenario. Indian polity has completely changed because of this. Why? Because in the beginning, when the Indian Union is in the formative stage in 1947, 48 onwards, there were many principalities which were completely independent under different kings, rajas, or like our Nizam. So, these principalities got merged with Indian Union, and Hyderabad also one of the Indian one of the principality, a huge principality in terms of geography, in terms of population, in terms of income, everything. Hyderabad, Junagadh and Jammu Kashmir, these three had a different case to tell, and we will just limit ourselves to Hyderabad state, Nizam state or Hyderabad state, what we call today. Hyderabad state was there, like that you have many principalities. So, how to make all these things? On one side you have the demand for reorganization on linguistic basis, means the state should be reorganized or the regions should be reorganized into states, so that all the whole country can be divided in a scientific way for administrative purposes and all those things. So, what was the need for state reorganization? Say 565 principally states merged into different huge regions, like you can see only a few regions merged with Pakistan, but because the principalities which are near to present day Pakistan are merged with that. Otherwise, you can see part A states, the whole constitution, we can see in the constitution, the states are divided into three groupings. One is part A states, part B states and part C states. Andhra is in part A state, part B states are Hyderabad. Most probably all these things you can see Hyderabad, Jammu Kashmir, Madhya Bharat, Mysore, Patiala, Rajasthan, Saurashtra, Travancore, all these things are princely states mostly. Part C states Ajmer, Himachal, Bhopal, Delhi, Coorg, Kutch, Manipur, Tripura, Vindhya Pradesh. Vindhya Pradesh is central India. Like that, the whole country is organized into different areas, and we can see the shape of the Indian map with different sizes, not present day size. So, in this context, the needs for states reorganization was there. Vallabhbhai Patel, the person who has merged the whole many principalities forcibly or by democratically, or many aspects are there by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and his colleague not in terms of minister, he was the Secretary of State, that is V.P. Menon. V.P. Menon very instrumental in this entire exercise. He has written a book, Integration of Indian States, and Patel was the Home Minister. So, in this whole process there was a little bit of hurry too. So, this hurry has to be rectified, this haphazard merger should be rectified. So, strengthening the country is very important for a better administration. So, that was the need, and then it is evident that on 29th December, Indian Union has appointed, Indian central government has appointed a new commission known as States Reorganization Commission. The commission was appointed by the central government. The chairman was Syed Fazal Ali, member H.N. Kunzru, Fazal Ali and H.N. Kunzru. H.N. Kunzru full name is Hrudayanath Kunzru, then Panikkar, K.M. Panikkar, Kavalam Madhava Panikkar, a person from Kerala, a diplomat. Panikkar was a diplomat, Kunzru was a politician. Syed Fazal Ali is also from UP, he also held many positions. So, these three people consisted of States Reorganization Commission, and we call it as SRC for our convenience. And very interestingly, this SRC was termed as Linguistic Commission by the people who has propounded the linguistics as the criteria for reorganization. And in our latest issue also we can see, latest Telangana agitations, all these people referred it as Linguistic Commission. Forget it, it is not a Linguistic Commission, it is States Reorganization Commission. The State Reorganization Commission has some terms of reference. Terms of reference means what are the issues they have to think about, like respecting the aspirations of linguistic states, means some people are discussing about linguistic states should be formed. Then priority to the unity and security, then not to disturb economic cultural aspects of the whole country. Then all these things should be mixed with the understanding of historical background of the condition. Every region has some history, it should not get disturbed. These are the terms of reference. And then finally, the whole exercise of this States Reorganization Commission happened between 29 June 1954. I am limiting the tour in Hyderabad or this region. 29 June 1954 they toured Hyderabad, and 19th July toured Telangana, met many political representatives, and we have many statistics like many representation flowed into SRC, and all these SRC representations they have selected only a few, that is 2000 and 2 discussed. And who represented SRC here? Vishalandra was represented by, Vishalandra understanding was represented by Ayyadevara Kaleshwar Rao, a proponent of Vishalandra Mahasabha. He was the president of Vishalandra Mahasabha in 1949 also. Then B.V. Subbarayudu, these are from Andhra, forget about them. But about Telangana, Devulapalli Ramanjarao, a literary stalwart, Baddam Ellareddy, a member of Communist Party, CPI, Ravi Narayan Reddy, because CPI was pro-Telangana in those days. CPI was for Vishalandra. They had a slogan that Vishalandralo Prajarajyam. Vishalandralo Prajarajyam slogan they had, we will talk about it at some instance, because Vishalandra they want it as a people's Andhra, Prajala Andhra. That is why they said Vishalandralo Prajarajyam, that was their slogan. So, according to that slogan, they were completely into Vishalandra mode. For separate Telangana, K.V. Rangareddy, the grand old man of Telangana agitation, we can say, he is since day one, K.V. Rangareddy was for Telangana. Harish Chandra Heda and Arige Ramaswamy, a Dalit leader, J.V. Narsinga Rao, Congress leader from Hyderabad, they met Raj Pramukh Mir Usman Ali Khan. Then Pradesh Congress Committee means Hyderabad state. Then Burgula point of view was also asked. Then Burgula said, I do not have any point. What is decided by the cabinet, I will abide by it. Our cabinet decision is our decision. Jayashankar also met the committee as a young student or young man. Professor Anandrao Tota also met. So, like that, huge sections from Telangana, different political activities like political activists or students, and Mir Usman Ali Khan like Raj Pramukh, everyone was representing their views about Hyderabad state. Then, what are the arguments for Vishalandra? Those who are proponents of Vishalandra argument, they said population, huge population will be at the dispense. You can have a huge population, working force and all those things. And we have a huge territory and huge water resources and power resources, like they were talking about Singareni in the last phase also. We have Singareni, you can produce electricity. Then raw materials, different raw materials, not only coal, you have different sources of materials, different types of materials. Then many other things like deficit of food supplies in Telangana. They were saying that actually because of the policies in the last phase of British government, the food production in coastal Andhra increased. So, they are saying that surplus can be used in Telangana, because Telangana is not having that food supply. And finally, they say even the problem of Andhra capital can be solved, because now Andhra do not have a capital. Kurnool is a temporary capital. So, from Kurnool you can have a permanent capital. This was the thing. Then what about the arguments of Telangana? Telangana argued that the financial deficit of Andhra state will be the burden on Telangana people. Why? Huge financial burden. Andhra state is economically not viable. There is no surplus. And who has the surplus? Telangana has the surplus. As we have seen, by the time 1952 itself, the Finance Commission reports and efforts of Burgula government brought back the conditions of Telangana back. Economically, it became it reached an equilibrium. So, this is first point, and there is no consideration for the concerns of Telangana if United Andhra Pradesh is there. Like they have constructed, they have designed some projects like Kushtapuram and Nandikonda. Nandikonda is nothing but present day Nagarjuna Sagar. It is redesigned later. So, Nandikonda is one point and Kushtapuram is another one. These are the two projects. These two projects may not get the concern required amounts in Hyderabad state, in United Andhra Pradesh. This was a contention. Then educational backwardness. Telangana is educationally backward because the British India has huge effort to educate its masses. We can see with the statistics also. Number of educational institutions in just Guntur district are equal to the number of educational institutions in the entire Telangana. What do you mean by that? Means they have more facilities, more institutions, more infrastructure and more number of people getting educated. So, automatically they will get a better deal in employment. So, this is another aspect they are contradicting the claim of Vishalandhra, and we want our state so that we will improve our educational institutions. This is the one. Then revenue receipts, there is a difference in the revenue receipts too. Revenue receipts means, for example, one Abkari they are talking about always. Excise department was a rich department in Hyderabad state even today. Excise income is so high that Andhra are saying that you people drink more, so you have a more excise income. It is not true. Actually, the department functioned well and you could collect more. So, this is another one. And finally, the argument was if we merge with Andhra state, what will happen? It will be a step back in economy, in terms of economy, because what we have achieved by the implementing the finance commission report, recommendations and all those things will go back. So, this is the one. So, this is Vishalandhra argument, this is Telangana argument. And finally, when we discuss about the recommendations of SRC, States Reorganization Commission, they have clearly talked about a few things which are political. We are not talking, States Reorganization Commission is not, remember, States Reorganization Commission is not just a commission to talk about Andhra or Telangana. They are here to talk about the entire country. So, they have talked in a very broader way. So, but we are talking with reference to Telangana. So, we are limiting our points here. SRC recommended and they talked about, for example, neither guarantees like Sribag or constitutional provisions like Scottish devolution may work for Telangana. Scottish devolution, they are referring to an arrangement for Scotland. Scotland demands are there. So, there is a devolution of powers in England. So, Scottish devolution is the word they have used. And Sribag they are referring to, which was the agreement between the Andhra and Rayalaseema. In 1936 itself, Rayalaseema said you will not favor us in many projects, education and everything. So, we want a pact if you want to be in Vishalandhra understanding. This happened way back in 1936, not even 1956. 20 years before itself, Rayalaseema was apprehensive of Andhra. So, this understanding we should have. So, they talked about Sribag, neither Sribag nor Scottish devolution work for Andhra. And second recommendation, two states for Telugus, Hyderabad state and Andhra, they wanted it, but Telangana shall be merged with Andhra only if the 2/3 majority of Telangana assembly, which will be elected in 1961 elections, resolves for merger, if not independent Telangana. What do you mean by that? Means the next elections, in the forthcoming elections in 1961 or so, after the new assembly formation, this is 56, after the new assembly 53 commission appointed, we are talking in 56. After the commission appointed, they have gave a report and they said next elections, means they have imagined that is 1961 elections. Till 1961 elections, the arrangement will be like this: Telangana and Andhra states. Telangana will be Hyderabad state, it will not be called as Telangana state, it will be called as Hyderabad state. Hyderabad state and Andhra, these were the terms they have used. So, if 2/3 of the assembly members in Hyderabad state agrees for the merger, then it can be merged with Andhra in 1961, but when it has happened? It happened in 1956 itself. There are lots of reasons for dismembering of Telangana. the central compulsions and many things. So, understanding SRC recommendations, when you understand the intention of SRC, language was not the criteria. As many people in the latter phase, they were talking about it is Linguistics Reorganization Commission, and it is not Linguistic Reorganization Commission, it is a Reorganization Commission. So, language not the criteria. That is why they have clearly understood and they gave different criteria for different states. Then second aspect is keeping both the aspirations of Hyderabad and Telangana, they have given these devolutions. To keep Andhra in happy mood, they said it can be merged if Telangana agrees in 1961. For Telangana, it is a good news that it will not be merged as immediately as they are discussing. This is another one. Then they understood the problems and accords, for example, the Scottish the Sribag or Scottish devolution. That is why they understood the problems in the accords. Sribag accord it is unimplemented. So, they said it clearly. And next point, the fallacy of the unificationists or the propaganda of the unificationists. Unificationists means Vishalandra protagonists. We can see fallacy. What is the fallacy? Language is a criteria, we have to understand. So, we have to merge all the Telugu areas should form Vishalandra, this was their one. But SRC recommendations have clearly shown the fallacy, it did not consider that. Finally, the center should act upon these things. SRC gave the report, States Reorganization Commission gave a report, and this is the first commission and there is no second commission, remember. Till date, you have only one States Reorganization Commission. So, this SRC gave a report, but center neither followed the SRC recommendations in toto, nor Ambedkar's views understanding about center. This is happened, this is what happened after 1956, that is we can understand very clearly. So, what has happened in the entire period from Hyderabad state having 3 regions together, now Hyderabad state with one region with Telugus dividing and merging with Andhra state in 1956. This is the ultimate thing after the SRC exercise is complete. Now, let us talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's views on linguistic states. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of Indian Constitution, unfortunately, he was ill, he could not deliberate on states reorganization in many periods, entire process. But his views, we can see he has clearly written his views in the book Thoughts on Linguistic States. In Times of India also he has written an article. So, these two articles are books, article plus this article, book plus article are important in terms of our understanding of Ambedkar on linguistic states. He has written many things, like in the topic in the book, he has given the aspects like limitations of linguism, pros and cons of linguistic state, must there be one state for one language or many states, north versus south, very interesting aspect. Then what are the solutions, division of the north, how north has to be divided, he has given proposals to deal with Maharashtra state, another context he is talking, we will have its repercussions in other topics too. Need for a second capital, India should have a second capital, all these things he discussed in this book titled Thoughts on Linguistic States. So, Ambedkar's formulation, actually if we understand Ambedkar's formulation in principle, this is very simple. Ambedkar clearly said, the idea of having a mixed state must be completely abandoned. Mixed state undakudadu. There should be no mixed state. Why? Because mixed state you have linguistic problems. Every state must be an unilingual state, one state, one language. But it does not mean that one state, only one language. You can have one language, many states. Remember this formula, very interesting. One language, one state is a formula, or one state, one language is a formula. But it does not mean that one language can have only one state. You can have many states having same language, but a state should not have many languages in it. This is the understanding of Ambedkar. We will discuss thoroughly how he is thinking about. So, The formula, he himself said, the formula of one state, one language must not be confused with the formula of one language, one state. Division based on the new state should be divided on administrative convenience, needs of the regions, sentiments of the people, ratio between the majority and minority, so that democracy will function. This is what Ambedkar opined. So, in terms of linguistic understanding, he has clearly said, if you divide the country in terms of linguistic states, growth of linguistic chauvinism will be there. For example, a state will be having only one language. Because of their sheer numbers or their importance, that language may dominate the affairs in the country. And second thing, if you have such chauvinism, threat to unity will be there. And minorities in those states where, for example, a state is there, yes, a language is so popular, but a minority language in that state, though it is a single state, definitely in our country like India, you have many languages, the minority languages will suffer in that state. Then, domination of Hindi is another important aspect in terms of our linguistic state, because North India today also we call it as Hindi speaking areas, but it is not so. In reality, Rajasthani they speak, but Hindi is the developed language and it is imposed on all these states. It is altogether another topic we can discuss sometime when we talk about languages and states. But put together, the entire North India is put as Hindi states. So, what will happen? Hindi states will dominate, and if you say all these are Hindi states, what will happen to the entire country? South is divided into different states. This he called, you can say like balkanization. Balkanization is a political term. In South, you have separate states for separate languages. Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Telugu, you have separate states. The entire South is divided into 4 states, and North India, Hindi speaking states will have a upper hand. This is what he opined when he said it is North versus South. So, criteria for balances, he has discussed many things, like population he discussed. When he discussed about population, you can see in the PowerPoint which we are presenting, the population he has mentioned, like there are 8 states with population with different statistics. He has clearly said the result, to say it the least, is fantastic. The commission evidently thinks that the size of the state is a matter of no consequence, and he comments, this is the first and most terrible error caused which the commission has committed. If not rectified in time, it will indeed a great deal. He has warned the Indian state, because we can see in the back time also, many areas were demanding linguistic states, and post 1956 you can see you have demands for separate states. Language is also a criteria. We have seen new states formed. So, he was warning Indian government, because there are many aspects which still the Indian government has to understand, which it did not. Result, we have the demands for separate statehood. Then, what is his formulation? Criteria is to balance the areas like geographical extent, smaller and bigger states. For example, if you take a state like smaller state like Sikkim or some other smaller state, compare with Uttar Pradesh or United Province or like Hyderabad state, you have an imbalance. So, geographical extent should not be the criteria for reorganization of states is another aspect. Second thing, historical reasons are also should be seen when you decide about the state, because some regions have a smaller region, smaller geographical area because of historical reasons. The extent will be smaller, it does not matter. So, these things has to be considered. And last aspect is economic self-reliance. What do you mean by economic self-reliance? Natural and man-made resources, how the state is going to use is very important. So, this is the criteria he is talking about. Based on this, he has proposed that UP should be divided into 3 states, Bihar should be divided into 2 states, MP into 2, Maharashtra into 4. Why Maharashtra into 4? Because he has clearly seen Maharashtra, he wants Bombay as a city state. Why? Because he is more concerned about the problem of Dalits, problem of untouchables or problem of depressed classes as he called. Depressed classes will not have the same problem which they have in the rural areas, that untouchability or stigma or non-favoring of any services and all those things. but a city can provide employment or equal opportunities for the Dalits. That is why he was favoring a city state like Bombay in this Maharashtra. Maharashtra, he proposed 4. One is city state of Bombay, the other is Western Maharashtra, Eastern Maharashtra and Central Maharashtra. Vidarbha was one among the proposals. So, what we can understand is his views on Maharashtra has different considerations. His views on Uttar Pradesh or Bihar or Madhya Pradesh has different considerations. So, he is not sticking to one thing, he has a scientific reason to understand how the state should be treated. So, unfortunately, it did not happen. So, what do you want to understand with Ambedkar's statement that once he said, unfortunately, I am not able to participate in the discussions or deliberations because I was ill, but still my opinions are in this book. This he gave very clearly. So, if you see the whole aspect of this Ambedkar's opinion, 3 major aspects. What we understand with Andhra Pradesh is he was not favoring one language, one state, but what has happened? One language, only one state. His opinion was one language, many states, many languages not in one state. So, Ambedkar's opinion are so scientific. Ambedkar was clearly understanding that the states should be formed based on a scientific criteria, and linguistics is only a basic criteria which should be applied along with the geographical territory, the another aspect, that is economic aspect, that is self reliance and historical conditions. If we just retrospect the whole aspect, what has happened with Ambedkar's views as SRC? SRC recommendations not applicable because Andhra was pressurizing Nehru to Vishalandhra. Nehru very interestingly in his speeches, in the first speech when he has inaugurated Andhra state, he said it is imperial intentions. In some other time he said innocent boy, innocent girl and mischievous boy. But what has happened? He was also part of the wedding of an innocent girl with the mischievous boy. Why? There are many aspects. First and foremost aspect, what we can understand with the analysis of political events of this is 1952 to 1956, Hyderabad state is growing, but Hyderabad state carried a serious problem which is already in the international arena, it is on the international platform, that is United Nations. When Nizam was attacked or Hyderabad was, the Indian army was entering into Hyderabad, Nizam, though at least 6 to 8 months he has attempted to stall this process, finally the police action happened, and by this time Nizam represented to United Nations. So, that United Nations representation was a criteria, though it is not functional, that representation is still there. Hyderabad, dismemberment of Hyderabad is very important, because if you do not dismember Hyderabad state, the legacy of the Indian Union's accession to its territory will be there in United Nations. So, Nehru, this is one of the reason for Ambedkar's this is one of the reason for Nehru accepting for merger of Hyderabad with Andhra, finally giving way to Andhra Pradesh. So, to conclude, what we can get in the examination is the opinions of Ambedkar is very important. So, the question can be, write the opinions of Ambedkar on states reorganization. You have to make a point that you have to write Ambedkar's opinions, then you have to write Ambedkar's analysis on Ambedkar opinions, then third point is what has happened and repercussions. What Ambedkar has visualized did not, what Ambedkar has visualized is a reality today. He has warned many things, and you can see it in Indian polity in the latter time. So, 2 questions are important in this entire topic. One is, write down the 1952 movement as the beginning of Telangana Telangana state movement. Second question is, write the opinions and formulations of Ambedkar on states reorganization and analyze his visionary approach in the formation of states. So, this is 1952 and thereafter plus SRC, that is States Reorganization Commission and Ambedkar's opinions on states formation.